Last week at Cedar Haven, we were discussing this Century 21 contract. And it's come to my attention that some of the things in here, two of the items specifically, we need to discuss further.
Go for it.
First of all, should we require a performance bond? And I had pointed out at that meeting last week that I didn't think so, that our ammunition, so to speak, is if the work's not done, we don't pay the bill. If they've done a portion of the work, we pay a portion of the bill. And in fact, I believe it's true that none of the other contracts of this nature for reassessment have ever had a performance bond. And if indeed we required a performance bond, we would ultimately have to pay for it, and it would cost us $25,000 to $50,000. So if we have the strong arm of not paying the bill versus paying out $25,000 to $50,000 for the bond, to me it logically seems we should use our power of payment, not require this bond. It's after the fact. We already gave them, the approval. Well, when we put out our bid for contracts, it was not a requirement in the bid. And I think that this is backpedaling, and if indeed we sincerely wanted this bond, it should have been in those specifications, not coming to them after the fact and requiring that. So that's the first issue, and I would make a motion that we not require a performance bond because this is not a tangible project. This is services rendered. So if the service isn't rendered, we just don't pay.
Well, first of all, it's certainly a tangible project because you're going to have a product in the end. And secondly, I realize that we're going to have to pay for it. And third, I realize if something would happen, and if you read the entire contract, you'll see they have a whole part in there about default. And they could default. They could go out of business before this project is completed. And the performance bond will benefit us. It's an insurance policy if that in fact happens. And I believe that is a good, sound investment to make so that we can recover any additional costs for having to hire a second company down the road to pay, or that we would have to pay to finish the project if this company cannot finish the project. So I stand firmly by that. Now, you were he was directed to look into what the cost.
I told him I wanted to know what the cost was.
Right.
Well, I think it's a bad business practice to go back after you put out a request for proposals. You accept the vendor, and then all of a sudden you're going to throw new stipulations on him. I just think that's bad practice, and we'd all look bad for that.
Well, I don't.
What is the work at Cedar Haven for which you are discussing this bond?
It's a public meeting.
That was our meeting, our Wednesday meeting.
It was a public meeting.
That's the reassessment.
And we had the solicitor down to discuss it with him.
I think he's asking the nature of the project.
Yeah,
It's a reassessment. The
Reassessment.
reassessment.
Oh, it's the reassessment project. That
Century 21.
you want to get the
20, I got it
performance
back.
bond for?
Larry wants to get the bond.
Yeah.
And he's saying that he's in favor of it
Yeah.
because it's a
Correct.
good investment. What's she
And
saying?
I realize it's going to cost the county an outlay of money because, as Bill said, we didn't have it in the original proposal to provide a performance bond. What I'm saying is, in my judgment, it's good business for the county to have that insurance in the event that the company is unable to complete the project, so that we would have the performance bond cover the additional costs to have another company complete the project.
And what is her motion?
My motion is to not have a performance bond. If we were purchasing voting machines and they weren't delivered, we'd be out that money. But if they don't deliver a service, we just pay somebody else to do it. There's a difference. We don't need a
The
performance
service
bond.
is going to cost more if you have to hire somebody else to pick up after somebody. And
What does a performance bond cost?
$25,000 to $50,000.
$50,000.
$25,000 to $50,000.
Yes, sir.
And this is a bond.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a loan, right?
No, it's an insurance policy. I think
Oh,
it's a better
insurance
way to
policy,
look at it.
okay.
Go
I
ahead.
just want to get what's clear, what's
Okay.
back and forth here.
I understand your point of going back and changing
Right.
things, but if the burden of payment for the bond is on the county, how is that unfair to the vendor?
Well, it's
And
unfair to
also-
the taxpayers to spend an additional $50,000 that we weren't gonna spend.
Okay, but the vendor wouldn't have to put up any
No.
bond money.
But had we had it in the original proposal, they would have factored it in and the taxpayers would pay it either way. Absolutely. Customer always pays.
Okay, did you make a motion on that?
I did.
I'll second it. Go ahead, Carl.
I just wanted to ask, you said the Century 21 is doing, as you know, I've been here for a long time.
Yeah,
The Century 21
I think it's 21st century.
is the 21st century. Also, Century 21 was not correct. The reason I was going to ask is this
Real estate, isn't it?
real estate people.
No.
Okay, so it's 21st century, not Century 21.
Right,
Okay,
correct.
that was my question.
Any further discussion? All those in favor consent by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
The ayes have it, so carries.
And the last issue is where there's a recommendation by Commissioner Stohler to reduce payments by 1% for work not completed on time. And in theory, that sounds good, but we're under a court order. We have made that very, very clear to the vendor. We have told them that in the contract that we put out for bid, they have to be able to perform this work, and the only reason they would not get this done is because we're delaying right now in signing this contract. They need to have this signed so they can move forward. I really don't think it's in our best interest to start getting in a tit for tat. They could just walk away from the whole thing and say, forget it, we're not going to do it, go to the next vendor, and the next vendor is much more expensive. I think we need to sign the contract. Larry, you had some great suggestions, they've been made, but these two are sticking points, and I think that we should not enforce the percent of work not completed. I would move to allow the payment schedule to move forward as in the contract.
Well, the problem, as I said before, is equity. And they have a whole dissertation in there regarding us being penalized if we don't pay on time. And your statement earlier about withholding funds, we can do that, but then we fall under their penalty clause, and they would take us to Commonwealth Court. Yeah,
Not true.
Hey, whoa.
Not true.
Whoa, I didn't interrupt you. I'd like to, you know that. You like to interrupt me. I know that. Take me a second to get my train of thought back, which is.
You need another Diet Coke, Bubba.
Yeah, I know. I suffered over here.
Penalty for invoices beyond 30 days.
Yeah, the way that is written, if we withhold money, thank you, Jamie, we will have to pay that penalty down the road. So we can withhold money, but it doesn't hurt them. We're the ones that are under the court order to get it done. They're not. And they've had problems in Adams County, and they've had problems in Cumberland County, and I got that from their commissioners, getting things done in time. What this condition is, and it's a condition I've worked with in other types of contracts, all it does, it says, it holds them to their timetables that this little group of 6 is gonna come up with to stay on their timetables. If they don't meet their timetables that we both agree upon, then we get paid. We reduce the funding to them, and it's all legal. We penalize them some percent or a fixed fee, and that is common in contracts. And we didn't agree. We agreed to hire them. We didn't agree to any contract terms when we agreed to hire them. You have to keep that in mind. We're negotiating a contract. And yes.
No. We agreed to their proposal by 2-1. Their proposal was their contract,
Well, that's a
subject to the solicitor's review.
You can say it that way. I don't see it that way. But what I'm saying is, what I'm looking for is equal protection for the county, for them not getting things done on time. And you do that by penalizing them financially, and you put that in the contract to make that a part of the contract.
Again, that should have been discussed when we were in the proposal stage, and it was never discussed.
I might
We had the
add,
proposals for how long, a month or more, that we waited, right?
and I might add that I'm sorry, were you not done?
No, go ahead.
I might add that if indeed they don't get something done on time, they have broken the contract, and we would have every right not to pay them, and we would not be subject to any penalty.
It doesn't say that.
Carl, go ahead.
Does this issue again deal with 21st Century
Yeah.
and
It's the same company, sir.
the same issue?
21st century.
Now, my next question is, how comes this stuff wasn't on the agenda that she brought up during the meeting? Why
Well,
was
we've been
this stuff on the
discussing,
agenda?
we often bring stuff up after the meeting. This is an open meeting, we're very
Yeah.
public about it.
Yeah, I know.
You're allowed to bring up any
But I
topic you
just
want.
wonder why it wasn't listed on the agenda, that's all.
You're allowed to
Well,
bring up any topic you want,
I don't know
Carl.
the answer to that.
I don't think I had intention of coming up, so,
What's that?
I wasn't aware that it was gonna be discussed here.
Yeah. We all have received it individually, and we certainly can bring up anything we want.
Would you prefer that we broke the sunshine law and discussed it outside of the public meeting?
I think he preferred that they put it on the
that's not what I
agenda.
meant. Come on.
Okay,
But I
just
have my
checking.
notes here just like you have yours.
I
I
think,
just
I
meant-
think the point is, this
You
is
seem
the
to put a lot of
appropriate
thought in
place.
this. I was wondering why it's not on the agenda.
Well, this has been going on for 6 or 8 weeks now, Carl.
Yeah, well, I haven't been here for a
Okay,
long
so-
time either.
And the point is that this is the appropriate place to bring it up, Carl.
I agree.
Okay,
No, I
thank
agree
you.
with that.
Thank you,
And I appreciate that you let citizens comment on it too.
thank you,
Some bodies would not.
right,
I appreciate that you do.
thank you.
Penny, is that the last sticking point then?